Tale of Two Wastelands runs on the Fallout New Vegas engine and thus has some features that were not present in Fallout 3. However, it is an old game and by modern standards it is lacking some of the sort of things we might expect in, modern shooters or in games such as Fallout 4. So in this video I'm going to use some mods to add a few new features, smooth off a few rough edges, and outright remove some real annoyances.
That one is you.
This video is for people who have already installed Tale of Two Wastelands and its required mods. I will also be assuming you did this with the help of a mod manager. I will be using Vortex in this video, and you have a reasonable understanding of the modding process for Fallout New Vegas. If none of that is true, I do have videos that can help you out. Please find links down below in the description. Leaving the vault and seeing the capital wasteland for the first time is one of the more memorable things in any Fallout game for me. In fact, in any game in general. It's one of those moments that has stuck with me for the longest time. But it was ruined a tad by the level up. It did sort of ruin the flow just a little bit, yeah? However, that is what it is. It's just something that happens in the game. What made it so much worse was as each DLC came out, you had a separate pop-up for each one. It completely destroys the flow of the start. I mean, it really is absolutely infuriating. Okay. Explosives? Okay. Okay, I've got a radio message. It's being broadcast across the capital wasteland. Okay, another radio broadcast. Brilliant, there's lots of radio out here. Got it. The wasteland is filled with radio. For crying out loud. Oh, I'm done. I've had enough. I'm going back inside. So for me, an absolute essential mod is Delay DLC TTW. This just gets rid of the vast majority of those interruptions. It does leave the level up, unfortunately. I wish we could have something that stops that from happening. Maybe doesn't trigger it until you get down a little further, or maybe just gave you the option to level up when you open the Pit Boy, for example. But for now, this mod at least allows you to get past that one initial menu and then just take in the view, start planning what you're going to do, and I don't know, maybe relive those memories of your first time playing Fallout 3. One of the things that was missing in both Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas was the ability to sprint. You could either walk or you could sort of move at a light jog. But many of us have grown to expect sprinting in these sort of games, and so with a mod called Just Sprint, I can do exactly that. There is both first and third person animations for this sprinting, but it is pretty much as simple as that. You press a key and you start sprinting. It does use action points, so you will only be able to sprint for a certain amount of time, and the amount of action points it uses is somewhat dependent on your endurance.
Hey.
Hi. You can control all of this from the mod configuration menu. If I go along to the sprinting options, I can control how fast the sprinting is, how much action points it uses, and many other things. But honestly, it really is a very simple mod to set up. Just pick the key you want to activate sprint, and then when you're in game, if you've got the action points, you can now sprint, take cover, or just move around a little faster. The original Fallout games were actually isometric turn-based RPGs, and combat relied on the character skill, not on the player's individual first-person shooter skill. Fallout 3 allowed you to do both. You could use first-person shooter mechanics and shoot at things as you would expect, but you could also use VATS to queue up shots, target individual areas, and rely on the character's skill, not your own. So you would just queue up a couple of shots and then let them fly. And you'd very often get these cinematic moments and kill cams. I thought it was a really good idea. But some people do not like VATS. Perhaps they think it's too overpowered because it is very powerful, or perhaps they feel it's just removing some of the flow and they would prefer to do first-person real-time combat. But Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas are not the greatest shooters out there. So there is a mod called Just Bullet Time that will make that sort of combat feel a little easier and a little less clumsy, and it does pretty much what you would expect it to do. You press a key, you go into bullet time, you line up your shots, and you just shoot that way. Again, it uses action points, and you can set up how many action points it uses per second. You can change things like the sounds it uses, the key that it uses, etc. And it just gives you a way to make the combat feel a little less clumsy without having to rely on VATS. Now, Fallout 4 didn't just make first-person combat a little better, it also added a few new little features that people did like, and one such feature was the looting feature. You could look at a container and see what was inside and loot it without having to freeze time. And as you can see here in the capital Wasteland, I'm doing the exact same thing using a mod called Just Loot. I basically can take, well, everything in there if I want, and then I can just keep moving on. Someone said hey. To the next container, see what's in there, and take anything that's in there without having to slow down and go through the menus. It's just one of those nice little conveniences that makes the game flow a little better. And once again, just like all the other Just mods, it can be tweaked through the mod configuration menu. Now, you've probably already figured out that the last 3 mods that I've shown you all share something in common. They were created by the same mod author, and indeed, he's actually made 9 mods in the Just Mods series that all do useful little things. And he's merged all 9 mods into one mod, so you can get all of these features with just one plugin, and that is very, very useful. In fact, that is how I would recommend you use the mods, even if you don't want all of them. I currently have loot menu, sprint, and bullet time enabled, but maybe I want dynamic crosshair as well. So I can enable that right here, or I can enable it at the top page. And what this does is, well, there you go. It gives me a dynamic crosshair. You can see it's not the standard Fallout crosshair. It's telling me what the spread will be, and as I move, it changes. There's a hit marker mod, a hit indicator mod, an objectives mod. This will actually show where your current objective is. As you can see, my current objective is over there, so that's very similar to the sort of Skyrim way of doing things. Many other games do this. There is Just Hold Breath for steadying your aim when looking down scope, and there's even Just Weapon Wheel that gives you an FPS style weapon wheel that lets you change your weapons this way. This is less useful for me because I use keyboard and have lots of hotkeys, but it might be a nice addition for some of you. And it comes with the package. I want to drink some Nuka-Cola right there. It comes with Just Mods. You get all of these and you can decide which ones you wish to enable. You can even get it to save the changes to the ini file and load them each time you start the game, so that all of the hard work you've put into getting it set up just the way you want is applied every time you start a new game. The next mod is for all you looters out there. You've now got your Just Loot menu installed, and you can quickly look around and take all of the loot from these various containers. But you find something and you think, you know what, that really does look like I should be able to store stuff in it. And more importantly, loot things from it. Well, with a mod called Root and Loot, you can, because it replaces all of these static items that look like containers that you've looted before with their container counterpart. So you can put things in and take things from them if they contain anything. There's no guarantee they will have loot, but occasionally they will. So you get a little more loot and a lot more looting. But if you don't like looting, really you're probably playing the wrong game. So you come home after a hard day's looting and you've got a lot of stuff you need to place in the various containers. And you've got great plans at the start. You're going to put weapons here, you're going to put ammo in the trunk upstairs, you're going to put food in the refrigerator, etc, etc. But we all know after about 2 or 3 days, all you're doing is running in and sticking absolutely everything in one container because you're way too busy planning your next heist and or adventure where you will get even more loot. And before you know it, you've got one container with approximately 2.4 gajillion items in it, and you couldn't find an elephant if it was hidden away in there, yeah? We've all been there. However, there are some mods that will help you out with this. There is a very famous one called Sortomatic, but the one I've chosen this time is called Stash Organizer. And it's not just because it's got a cool name, because I do like the sound of that, Stash Organizer. It's because it's actually going to be compatible with pretty much everything. The vanilla homes, modded homes that have been added. The way it works is you select one of your containers as a master container. You get close enough to it and then you activate it with the VATS key. This will then give you the option to mark this as your master storage. I'm going to click yes. There are a lot of other options, but I'm going to ignore them for now. And then what I can do is teach my house where I'm going to store everything. So for example, if I go along to this container and I add, what shall I add? I'm going to add some of my 10mm ammo. So I've added 25 ammo to this container, yeah? Now, that is the default location, the default destination for that sort of ammo. So if I go here, and I now, oh no, I've got to actually, because I'm using just loot menu, I have to press a different key. If I now add the rest of my ammo, in fact, I'm also going to add the BB gun ammo, and then I exit, and then I look back, well, the BB ammo is still there, unfortunately. However, all of my 10mm ammo is here. Now, the reason the BB gun ammo is there is because I didn't teach it that's where it should go. Now, you might be thinking, do I have to put every single item in? The answer is no. You can just target any container once again with the VATS key and then assign categories. I'm going to assign weapons and ammo, and I'm going to tell it I want to essentially put ammo in this container. You might also choose mines. Perhaps you want mines and throwables in here as well. Click back and then close. Oh, now it's taken the BB ammo straight from the container. I'm actually going to go back and now place all of the ammo, the BB gun ammo. Do I have any weapons that are throwables? No, I don't. Right, okay, well, never mind. But now they've all automatically been moved to here. And you can do this with a lot of items. Well, all your items. You can set your weapons in one locker, your armor in another. You could assign books and magazines to your filing cabinet, drinks to your vending machine, etc, etc. The mod has a lot of little features that will make your life a lot easier, and loads of configurations and settings that you can change to make it work for you. In fact, I could probably do a half-an-hour video devoted to this and still not cover everything. Not going to do that here. What I will do is show you one of the best features, and that is the ability to essentially use any item that's in any container when crafting. So if I go here, you can see I can break down the 10mm ammo even though I don't actually have any ammo currently on me. This mod just makes your player homes a lot more useful. It makes crafting a lot less hassle, and it makes you feel like there's a purpose for all of the looting that you've been doing. You feel like you've got a collection rather than, you know, a glorified junk pile. You know what? I pretty much have the same problem with my own pockets as well, so the next mod is kind of useful if you are like me. It's a mod that will take the aid items, the chems, the food, the drinks, and the miscellaneous items, the things like the craftable materials, the parts, and the junk, and it will just stick a label in front of them to make it a little easier to see what items should go in what container, which things you should pick up and which things you should, and I'm going to say it, drop, because sometimes we have to drop loot. It's just, we can't carry it all. We want to, but we can't. And this simple little mod called Item Sorter, which is a little mod that's on the same page as the Stash Organizer actually, just makes that a little easier. To make the installation process simpler, I have once again created a collection for all of these mods. But don't worry if you're not using Vortex, or if you want to manually install the mods, I will cover the mods and which files you will need once I've shown you the installation of the collection. Installing the collection is, as you would expect, pretty easy. Go along to the collection page on Nexus and click Add to Vortex. This will start downloading with Vortex, and once it's downloaded the collection, it will ask you if you wish to install the collection and to which profile. I'm going to select my Tale of Two Wastelands profile and hit Install Now. Most of the mods will install themselves, but there are two mods that you will need to basically point Vortex to. The first is Stash Organizer, and the instructions here are to click on the main file download link for the latest version of Stash Organizer. Click Continue. It will open up the web page. Scroll down until you see the latest version. At the time of making this video, it was Stash Organizer 2.1. Click on the download link, and then Vortex will do its thing. It's immediately opened up another prompt for Item Sorter. Click on the optional file download link for Item Sorter. It's actually the same page, so I'll click Continue. Once again, scroll down and click on the link for Item Sorter. It will then install those, and it's pretty much done. Now, of course, all that's left to do is start the game and check that the collection has been installed correctly. For those of you that are going to manually install these files, or those of you that are just curious as to what the collection is doing, the first 8 files are not even files for the mods I showed in this video. They are required mods that the various mods need in place to function correctly. The first 6 mods in this collection are almost certainly ones that you have installed already, because they are essential mods for the Tale of Two Wastelands. Please don't worry about collections that contain mods you already have installed. Vortex will simply skip them in the installation process. The 7th and 8th files listed belong to the mod configuration menu, and whilst this mod is not technically a requirement for any of the mods that I showed you in this video, you won't be able to change any of the settings for just assorted mods, and it will make it very difficult to set up to meet your personal needs. If you don't already have the mod configuration menu installed, this collection will install it, and I highly recommend it. So many mods use it, and I can see no good reason for not using it. That brings us to the mods I showed you in this video, starting with Delay DLC REDUX TTW, and it will be downloading 2 files. The first is the main file, and you are going to want Delay DLC REDUX TTW. Download that with your mod manager and install it. But I also highly recommend the optional file Delay DLC REDUX TTW pre-order pack placement, because that will get rid of another one of the annoying pop-ups. If you are installing this manually, I would recommend you go to the description and check under requirements and just make sure you do in fact meet all of the requirements listed here. Next up is just assorted mods, and this one's very easy. Go along to the file section and download with your mod manager the main file and install it as you would install any other mod. Do check the requirements. This one has a lot of requirements. If you're not using the collection, make sure you've got all of these. You should. All of these are requirements for NVSE anyway, so you should have these. One other thing, the mod does come with all of its features on by default. However, with the collection, I have included a config that makes it so that they're all set to off by default and that it saves the settings into the ini file. This means when you start a new game, none of these features are enabled. You will need to enable them one at a time and set them up to, your own personal needs. That's my preference, especially on a mod like this that adds so many different features, many of which I'm not sure I'm going to need. This config file just comes bundled with the collection. It's not really a big deal. You can create your own and have all your new games start the way you want to start them. Next up, root and loot. Just go along to the files section, download with the mod manager of your choice and install. Very, very simple mod. And of course, it does require Tale of Two Wastelands. Make sure you're getting the Root and Loot TTW version of this mod. Stash Organizer is not found on Nexus. I will leave a link to where you can find it down below, along with links to all of the mods that I've shown you in this video and indeed the collection. Go along to the page, scroll down, and you will need to download Stash Organizer somewhere on your system and add it to your mod manager of choice. I would also grab Item Sorter whilst you're here because both of these mods are right here. Add them to your mod manager and install them as per normal. Very, very simple. And that's it. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this video. I'm already working on a few more videos in this series, including one that tweaks the visuals. You're more than welcome to join me for that video or on any of my other videos if you so choose. But whatever video you decide to join me on, I look forward to seeing you there. And until then, remember as always, have fun.
I've lost all ambition for worldly acclaim.